Friends, if you're the kind of movie lover who enjoys a little chaos, a touch of controversy, and a whole lot of originality, then you're in for something totally different today. Welcome to the most daring movie breakdown you didn't know you needed. We're talking about Wetlands yes, that film. The one that made headlines, raised eyebrows, and left audiences somewhere between gasping and laughing out loud. If you've never heard of it before, don't worry. If you've heard of it but were too scared to press play, even better. And if you've already seen it, well, you already know this isn't your average coming-of-age story. Now, before we jump into this crazy, unforgettable cinematic experience, do us a quick favor. If you're new to this channel and you love content that takes bold, offbeat movies and breaks them down in a fun and detailed way, make sure to hit that subscribe button and become part of our film-loving family. Because trust me, this channel is not just about popcorn flicks and superhero blockbusters. We go deep, and sometimes, into territory that's, well, slippery. In today's video, we're diving headfirst into Wetlands a film that doesn't whisper, it screams. It pokes at taboos, flips the bird to societal norms, and still manages to hit you right in the feels when you least expect it. We'll talk about what this movie is really about, what inspired it, and how it manages to mix humor, bodily fluids, and raw emotion into a single storyline. We're not just skimming the surface either, we'll be going into full detail about the plot, where and how you can watch it, what kind of experience you're in for, and why it's one of the most fearless films to come out of Germany in the last decade. We're also going to dig into the technical side of things, everything from the bold direction and stylized visuals, to the unfiltered script, unforgettable performances, and wild soundtrack. We'll explore how this film was made, what challenges the team faced during production, what the critics had to say, and how audiences reacted around the world. We'll also break down the story beat by beat, look at the characters and how they evolve, and analyze all the juicy stuff like themes, metaphors, visual effects, and yes, even the set design. Nothing's off limits here. On top of that, I'll tell you which OTT platform or satellite channel you can catch this film on right now, and why it's worth experiencing in the best possible quality if you can handle it, that is. We'll also look at the budget, box office, and what makes this movie such a conversation starter, even years after its release. So, whether you're a fan of raw indie cinema, coming-of-age stories with a twist, or just curious about the movie that had everyone talking and squirming in their seats, this is a video you'll want to watch till the very end. Get ready, because Wetlands is not a film you forget, and this review is not going to be something you've heard before. Let's start the madness. Would you like me to continue with the plot and narrative section now? 2. Plot and narrative Now this is where things get wild in the absolute best way. Wetlands doesn't just tell a story, it drags you into a chaotic, uncensored, and unapologetically raw brain dump of a teenage girl named Helen. This is not your standard beginning-middle-end kind of narrative. Oh no. Wetlands opens with a monologue that grabs you by the collar and says, "Hey, here's everything you're not supposed to talk about." From that moment on, it's like you've jumped inside Helen's head and there's no turning back. The structure is loose and free-flowing, built more like a chain of thoughts, flashbacks, and stream of consciousness than a neatly packed 3-act script. Time jumps back and forth, and sometimes you don't even realize it until you're knee-deep in her childhood memories or mid-thought about her hemorrhoids. Yes, that happens. The story technically kicks off in a hospital room. Helen's landed there after a shaving injury in a very, very personal place. That's your setup. But instead of being a story about recovery or medical care, the hospital becomes a strange little safe zone, a place where Helen starts unpacking everything. Her dysfunctional family, her absent father, her overbearing mother, and her deep desire for connection, especially with her estranged parents. You think the injury is the event? Nah. That's just the door opening. The real plot unravels in her mind as we explore her experiences, philosophies, and total rebellion against social taboos. And then there's the biggest emotional twist, not a romantic betrayal, not a tragic death, but Helen's secret plan to reunite her divorced parents by staying in the hospital longer than necessary. That's the heart of the movie right there. Beneath all the bodily fluids, outrageous thoughts, and gross-out humor, there's this deeply human desire, a broken kid trying to piece her family back together. That's where Wetlands sucker punches you with unexpected tenderness. Flashbacks take us through everything from traumatic childhood events to hilariously awkward sexual adventures, and these moments don't arrive in order, they swirl around like pieces of her consciousness, which honestly feels more real than any overly polished drama. The narrative shifts from absurd to heartbreaking in a single scene, and that's what keeps it electric. It dares to make you uncomfortable, and just when you think you've had enough, it throws in a moment of sincerity so honest it disarms you. As for perspective, everything is through Helen's eyes. We're not objective observers, we're riding shotgun in her imagination, her fantasies, her insecurities. Sometimes her narration lies, sometimes it over-explains, but it's always authentically her. There are no conventional heroes or villains. Just a girl figuring out life, sex, family, trauma, and identity loudly, boldly, and without any filters. Wetlands doesn't just tell a story. It vomits it out in splashes, laughs, tears, and flashbacks, and somehow by the end, amidst the bodily fluids and broken families, you realize this story might be one of the most honest coming-of-age journeys you've ever witnessed, even if it makes you squirm all the way through. Would you like me to dive into *** character development ** next? **3. Character development **. Alright, let's talk characters, and by characters, we mostly mean the force of nature that is Helen. Because let's be honest, this film is a one-woman rollercoaster ride and everyone else is strapped in whether they like it or not. Helen is not your typical protagonist. She's loud, vulgar, completely unpredictable, and painfully honest. But that's exactly what makes her such a fascinating character to follow. From the very first scene, she dares you to judge her and then flips your expectations on their head. On the surface, she seems like a rebel for rebellion's sake, breaking hygiene rules, experimenting with bodily fluids, pushing every boundary just to see if it'll push back. But what you slowly realize is that all of this chaos, all of this madness, is her armor. It's how she survives a childhood filled with emotional voids, abandonment, and a deep, gnawing need for love. Her character arc isn't about fixing herself, because Helen isn't broken in the way society thinks she is. Her journey is more about peeling back the layers of her defenses and letting herself be vulnerable without the shock factor. That transformation is subtle but powerful. By the end, you don't see a reformed version of Helen, you see a clearer one. She doesn't become more normal, she just becomes more open to the parts of herself she was hiding behind the filth and the chaos. And that's real growth. Then there's her mother, cold, neurotic, and emotionally distant. At first, she seems like the villain of Helen's life, the root of all dysfunction. But even she isn't one-dimensional. Her obsession with cleanliness, her rigid demeanor, it's all a coping mechanism. You start to see her as someone who's been damaged too, someone who has built walls so high she forgot who she was protecting herself from. Their relationship is the emotional spine of the story, even though it's frayed, sharp-edged, and mostly held together with passive-aggressive silences and childhood trauma. Helen's attempts to reconnect with her mother, however weird or manipulative they seem, are drenched in longing. And then there's the nurse, Robin. A calm, quiet contrast to Helen's whirlwind energy. He could have been just another side character, a bland love interest, but nope, he ends up becoming the first person to really **see** Helen without flinching. Their relationship is weird and sweet and messy, and it's never polished into some fairytale romance. Robin doesn't fix Helen, and Helen doesn't magically fall in love and become tame. But through him, she starts to believe that maybe, just maybe, someone can accept her exactly as she is. That's huge. That's the heart cracking open. Even the side characters, Helen's friend Karina, her absentee dad, her teachers, and doctors, are drawn with just enough detail to show how the world has shaped her and how she bounces back with her own twisted logic. Each interaction gives you more insight into Helen's mind, and even if the others don't change much, they all contribute to her evolution. So yeah, these characters are not here to make you comfortable. They're here to make you feel, squirm, laugh, and maybe rethink everything you thought you knew about what it means to grow up. Helen's transformation isn't loud or obvious, but it's layered, deep, and unexpectedly tender beneath all the madness. Ready for me to dive into *** performances *** next? **4. Performances***. If there's one thing that drives this film like a flaming shopping cart down a steep hill, it's the jaw-dropping performance of Carla Juri as Helen. This is not just a role. This is a full-blown possession. She doesn't just act Helen, she devours her. Carla doesn't flinch, hesitate, or blink in the face of anything. She throws herself, literally and emotionally, into every bizarre, hilarious, and downright uncomfortable scene with a fearless energy that feels almost dangerous. You watch her smear things, say the unsayable, and dive headfirst into moments that most actors would politely decline and run away from. And yet, somehow, she doesn't turn Helen into a caricature. There's this strange beauty to her chaos. Every gross-out moment is balanced with these sudden, deeply human flashes of vulnerability. She's the kind of character who can make you gag and tear up in the same scene. Carla Juri deserves every bit of praise and then some. This performance isn't just convincing, it's magnetic. You can't look away, and you never want to. Now let's talk about Marlon Cruz as Karina, Helen's best friend and fellow explorer of the taboo. She's the Bonnie to Helen's Clyde in this hormonal, bodily fluid-fueled rebellion against societal norms. Cruz nails that blend of nonchalant cool and chaotic bestie energy. Her presence gives Helen the perfect mirror, another girl who isn't playing by the rules, but maybe breaking them for slightly different reasons. Their chemistry is electric, weird, and oddly touching. It's not your average teenage friendship, it's raw, sometimes disturbing, but always authentic. Christoph Letkowski, who plays Robin the nurse, is the calm in the middle of this sensory storm. His performance is quiet, subtle, and exactly what the film needs to give Helen space to unravel and reflect. He never tries to compete with her chaotic energy, instead, he anchors it. There's a tenderness in his eyes, a patience in the way he reacts to Helen's many strange behaviors. It would have been easy for this role to slip into bland love interest territory, but Letkowski keeps it grounded and genuine. When Helen tests him with her most outrageous behavior, he doesn't flinch, and somehow, that makes him one of the most likable characters in the film. Then we've got Meret Becker as Helen's mom, icy, obsessive, emotionally barricaded. She doesn't get a ton of screen time, but she makes every second count. Her performance isn't loud or dramatic, it's tight-lipped, twitchy, and full of unspoken damage. You feel the tension in her posture, the bitterness in her tone. She's the kind of mother who communicates more in a glance than in a full paragraph. Her interactions with Helen are like sparring matches that teeter between sadness and subtle emotional warfare. The coldness is so well played, it almost makes you uncomfortable, which is exactly what it's meant to do. Even the bit players, the doctors, the school authorities, the background weirdos, feel like they've been plucked right out of Helen's mind. They lean just far enough into the surreal to match the tone of the film without ever tipping into parody. Their reactions to Helen's antics aren't just realistic, they feel like snapshots of how the world responds to anyone who refuses to behave by the unwritten rules. Wetlands doesn't work without actors who are completely, fearlessly in sync with the film's vibe. And this cast. They don't just understand the assignment, they run off with it, flip it upside down, and light it on fire in the best possible way. Want me to break down **** direction **** next? ***5. Direction ***. If ever a film needed a brave, slightly unhinged captain to steer it through waters filled with bodily fluids, rebellion, trauma, and twisted comedy, it's ***Wetlands star. And director David Wnet. He doesn't just steer the ship, he charges full speed ahead with a devilish grin, blasting punk rock through the speakers. From the opening frames, it's clear he's not here to play it safe. This isn't a film that tiptoes around taboos, it launches itself at them like a teenager on a skateboard with no helmet and a death wish. But the real genius is how Wnet manages to juggle chaos with control. The tone veers wildly between outrageous and intimate, repulsive and poetic, but it never feels accidental. It's a tightrope act, and somehow, he never falls off. Wnet uses style like a weapon. The camera isn't just a passive observer, it's part of the madness. He zooms in when things get gross, lingers when it's uncomfortable, and dances with the characters when things spiral into surreal joy or pain. There's a kinetic energy in how scenes are framed, shot, and stitched together, almost like Helen's state of mind is directing the movie from the inside out. He's not afraid of breaking cinematic norms to match Helen's broken norms of reality. You get quick cuts, slow-motion gross-outs, fantasy sequences, and even moments of pure stillness, and somehow, they all feel like they belong to the same world. It's as if Wetlands said, what if a fever dream had a coming-of-age story, and then just made it happen? What makes his direction even more striking is how he balances shock value with real emotional weight. Anyone can throw in some bodily function scenes and call it edgy, but Wetlands roots every wild moment in Helen's psychology. He never lets you forget that beneath the grime and wild behavior is a girl who's hurting, who's searching, who's screaming to be seen. That's a rare kind of sensitivity hidden behind layers of punk aesthetic and cinematic rebellion. The pacing is also bold. There are stretches where everything feels fast, breathless, like Helen's thoughts are sprinting ahead of her body. Then suddenly, everything slows down: a hospital corridor, a conversation with Robin, a flashback to her parents, and the film dares you to sit in the quiet and feel something. Wetlands doesn't rush the emotional beats. He lets them breathe, even when the audience might want to squirm away from them. Visually, Wetlands brings a palette that's deliberately unpolished, gritty, real, slightly dirty in the most literal and symbolic ways. He doesn't dress up the world around Helen to make it more palatable. He leans into its imperfections, uses them to reflect her inner turmoil, and crafts scenes that feel like a mix between a diary entry and a protest sign. Even the moments that feel like visual chaos are loaded with intention. And when it comes to mood, he captures something so rare, that weird intersection between teenage defiance, loneliness, and freedom. 1 minute, you're recoiling at a close-up, the next you're laughing out loud, then suddenly you're quietly devastated. Wetlands makes it feel effortless, but it takes a fearless kind of vision to juggle all that without losing the audience or the heart of the story. So no, this isn't safe, sterile storytelling. This is bold, unapologetic, emotionally raw filmmaking that doesn't ask for your permission, it just kicks the door open and makes you feel everything, whether you want to or not. Want me to keep the momentum going with cinematography next? **6. Cinematography **. If Wetlands were a painting, the cinematography would be the part smudged with fingerprints, splashed with color, and still somehow emotionally precise. Cinematographer Jakub Bednarowicz doesn't just point a camera at the madness, he practically gets in the bathtub with it. The way the film is shot feels like it's filtered directly through Helen's head, which means you're not just observing her world, you're practically sitting inside her skull. The lens moves like she thinks, erratic when she's impulsive, dreamy when she's lost in memory, razor-sharp when she's focused on something she shouldn't be. The camera is constantly shifting in mood and rhythm to match her internal chaos. Take the opening scenes for example. It kicks off with close-ups that feel almost aggressive: skin, hair, bodily functions, things most films avoid. Wetlands zooms in on. These aren't just shock tactics. The cinematography is demanding you pay attention to the things Helen obsesses over, the parts of life that society deems impolite or unspeakable. There's no safe distance here. The framing is intimate, invasive even. You're practically inside Helen's pores, and that's exactly where the film wants you. Lighting plays an unexpected role throughout. You might expect a film this raw and rebellious to lean fully into a grungy, dark aesthetic, but Wetlands surprises you with light, sometimes soft and hazy like a fantasy, sometimes sterile and overexposed like a hospital nightmare. There are these beautifully bizarre contrasts where the subject matter is grotesque, but the lighting makes it strangely ethereal. Helen's fantasy scenes, especially, take on a kind of surreal glow. They're warm, colorful, and saturated with a dreamlike quality, even when they involve, well, things you'd never imagine in a dream. These moments are jarring in the best way. The lighting tricks you into a sense of beauty, then reminds you what you're actually looking at. It's cinematic whiplash done right. Framing is another wild tool in this chaotic toolbox. Some shots are tight, claustrophobic, placing you uncomfortably close to Helen's body and her increasingly outlandish behavior. Others suddenly open up: big, wide compositions when she's feeling small, empty rooms when she's isolated, long corridors that swallow her whole. There's one scene in particular, where Helen walks through a hospital hallway, and it feels like the walls are closing in not because of special effects, but because the camera lingers just long enough, framed just tightly enough, to make you feel her anxiety in your gut. And then there's the visual poetry. Oh yes, beneath the mucus and madness, there are moments that are downright poetic. A shot of Helen floating in a bathtub, underwater, her hair fanned out like a halo. A slow-motion moment in the sun, her body moving with freedom and joy, filmed like a rebellious ballet. Even scenes involving blood or injury are shot with this unexpected elegance, framed to show both horror and beauty at the same time. Bejnarowicz makes you feel like you're watching something between a punk rock music video and a coming-of-age fever dream. The use of handheld versus static shots also tells a story. When Helen's life is spinning out, the camera moves with her, shaky and erratic. When she hits moments of introspection or connection, like scenes with Robin, the shots become more grounded, more composed. It's not just visual flair, it's emotional choreography. Wetlands is visually alive in a way that makes you squirm and sigh and maybe even stare in awe. The cinematography doesn't just show you the story. It dares you to feel it on a visceral level. Every frame seems to scream, "You're not just watching Helen, you are Helen right now," and the camera is the bridge into her raw, unfiltered world. Shall we slide into editing and pacing next? The soundtrack in Wetlands doesn't just accompany the chaos, it dances in it, rolls around in it, and occasionally wipes itself off on a public toilet seat for good measure. It's not your traditional emotional string section or sweeping orchestral backing. Instead, it's a deliberately eclectic, jarring, and genre-hopping collection of sounds that mirrors Helen's twisted, hyper-personal universe. Think dreamy indie melodies clashing against thumping beats, whispery vocals colliding with chaotic noises, and moments where you can't even tell whether what you're hearing is part of the score or part of the environment. And that's the beauty of it, this isn't music that fades into the background. It gets in your face, curls up in your ear, and dares you to ignore it. There are stretches where silence creeps in like an awkward guest at a wild party, making everything suddenly more intimate or more disturbing. These quiet moments are weapons, used sparingly but with precision. They arrive when the film wants you to lean in, feel the grime under your skin, and sense the vulnerability behind Helen's anarchic bravado. Then boom, a track kicks in, quirky, sensual, offbeat, and we're riding the next wave of her headspace. The score doesn't follow the emotional beats in the typical Hollywood fashion. It challenges them. Where you might expect swelling strings during a heartfelt confession, you might instead get a track that sounds like it was made on a synth in a moldy basement and somehow, that makes it feel more real, more raw. Certain motifs repeat, not melodically but tonally, like the film keeps hitting the same emotional nerve with different musical knives. The music becomes another layer of Helen's fractured identity, bouncing between childlike playfulness, rebellious sexuality, and aching loneliness. This isn't a film where you walk out humming the main theme. It's a film where the soundtrack lingers in your bloodstream like something you might want to flush out but can't quite let go of. It's mood as music, attitude as audio, and it's got the nerve to not just underscore emotion, but to provoke it. Wetlands doesn't just dip its toe into the murky waters of taboo and discomfort, it dives right in, splashing you with a mix of rawness, chaos, and maybe even a little self-loathing. At the heart of this film is a stark exploration of bodily autonomy, self-discovery, and the unflinching embrace of one's imperfections. What's fascinating here is how the film never tries to sugarcoat these themes. Instead, it shoves them into your face with no apology, forcing you to confront what it means to truly accept yourself, warts and all. Helen's journey isn't just a physical one, it's a psychological excavation, stripping away layers of societal expectation, shame, and insecurity. She's not just rebelling against norms, she's confronting her own fears, her vulnerabilities, and her desires in the most unfiltered way. The film digs into the relationship between the body and identity, showing how both can be in conflict but also in strange, messy harmony. There's an ongoing dialogue about how women's bodies are often viewed through a lens of perfection or disgust, and Wetlands doesn't shy away from this discomfort. In fact, it takes great pleasure in it, daring you to sit with the gross, the uncomfortable, and the wonderfully human. The themes of sexual liberation and taboo are explored in a way that's not just about shock value, it's about peeling back the layers of human need, guilt, and freedom. The film doesn't glorify or villainize Helen's actions, it simply lays them bare, offering a raw portrait of someone who's desperate to connect, to feel, and to be understood, all while grappling with their own sense of self-worth. There's a deep sense of alienation woven through these moments, as Helen's outward defiance clashes with her inner turmoil, leaving her lost between two worlds, one of societal judgment and one of personal desire. And let's not forget the theme of sickness, not just physical, but emotional and mental, which runs parallel to Helen's chaotic behavior. It's almost as if the film asks the question, how far are we willing to go to heal? Is self-destruction a form of self-discovery? These themes about bodies, shame, identity, and the need for connection linger long after the film ends, leaving you with more questions than answers. But that's the point. It doesn't offer easy resolutions, instead, it leaves you squirming in your seat, forced to wrestle with the messiness of life, and especially with the messiness of being a woman, in all its complexity and contradictions. In a way, Wetlands doesn't just explore themes, it bathes in them, and in doing so, it challenges the audience to question their own notions of what's normal, acceptable, and human. It's a journey into the body, into the self, and into the uncomfortable spaces we often try to avoid, and it does so with a boldness that refuses to be ignored. Wetlands doesn't rely on flashy visual effects or CGI to tell its story, and that's one of the things that makes it stand out. The film keeps its visual effects minimal, but when they are used, they are cleverly crafted to enhance the raw, often gritty world it presents. Unlike many other films that rely heavily on digital effects to dazzle or distract, Wetlands uses them to deepen the sense of immersion into its characters' experiences and their world. Take, for instance, the moments when the film delves into Helen's thoughts and feelings. Here, the visual effects aren't about big, mind-bending spectacles, they're used to represent the inner chaos of her mind, her turmoil, and her desires. These effects don't overwhelm, they subtly creep into the narrative like an unsettling thought. It's all about enhancing the emotional texture of the story rather than stealing focus. In the few scenes where CGI is involved, it's integrated in a way that feels like part of the natural progression of the plot. It's never too much, it doesn't take center stage or try to upstage the characters. Instead, it serves as an accompaniment to the real, physical world, the strange, somewhat grotesque reality that Helen navigates. Whether it's some of the surreal elements that speak to her self-destructive thoughts or the symbolic imagery surrounding her health and identity, the digital effects support the narrative without becoming a spectacle. As for the practical effects, they play a far more prominent role in Wetlands, and this is where the film shines. The makeup and practical effects, especially in terms of bodily fluids, infections, and the messier aspects of Helen's life, are raw and unflinching. These elements are deliberately discomforting, but they're effective in portraying the visceral, often unpleasant reality of the protagonist's existence. The way blood, dirt, and bodily fluids are shown, without glamorization, pulls the viewer directly into Helen's world, creating a sense of authenticity and physicality that's both unsettling and fascinating. In comparison to CGI, the practical effects feel grounded and tangible, offering a stark contrast to the more abstract digital work. The practical effects don't feel like a distraction or a shortcut, they are a crucial part of making Helen's body and her self-image feel real, unfiltered, and inescapable. They contribute to the rawness of the film, making it feel uncomfortable yet deeply honest. And in that sense, the visual effects, both practical and digital, play a key role in capturing the film's essence, the unvarnished truth of the human experience, from the mundane to the grotesque. In Wetlands, the settings and production design do more than just create a backdrop, they are like characters in the film themselves, steeping the audience in the rawness and uncomfortable intimacy that the story is all about. The settings are grounded, sometimes grimy, sometimes disheveled, but always reflective of the film's themes of bodily autonomy, self-destruction, and reclaiming personal power. Helen's world feels almost like a tangible, lived-in space. The settings, the hospital room, the apartment, the grimy restrooms, are not there to look pristine or glamorous. In fact, they're a bit offbeat, often uncomfortable, and they speak volumes about the character who inhabits them. Take the scenes in the hospital, for instance. It's not the sterile, clean, and pristine medical environments we might expect from a traditional drama. Instead, we're dropped into a more uncomfortable, cluttered, and unpolished space, which enhances Helen's feelings of being trapped and detached from her body. The apartment she stays in feels messy, almost chaotic in its lack of order, and it's these details that add texture to the story. The room isn't one that screams comfort, it's cluttered, filled with objects and visuals that feel like remnants of a life in limbo, of someone who is struggling to define herself amid a swirl of bodily chaos. The bathroom scenes, especially, are a major focal point in the film's visual storytelling. They are cramped and often unsettling, making the mundane act of looking at yourself in a mirror or cleaning yourself up a disorienting experience. The locations are all deeply tied to the emotional state of the characters, especially Helen. Her environment speaks to her inner world, a place where she is constantly at war with herself, with her body, and with the society that wants to impose standards of cleanliness and order. Each setting, each prop, whether it's the vintage furniture, the scattered medical supplies, or the intimate spaces of self-care, reinforces the narrative's underlying themes. And then there are the outdoor scenes, the ones that are set against nature. The contrast between the internal, private spaces of the characters and the expansiveness of the outdoors adds layers to the story. While Helen's world often feels contained, suffocating even, the outdoor locations offer a sense of vastness and freedom, yet they are not always welcoming. In fact, these outside spaces are often depicted as lonely and desolate, echoing Helen's struggles with isolation and the conflicts she faces within herself. The locations don't just serve as backdrops, they become integral parts of the film's identity. They ground the film in a gritty realism, creating a world that feels immediate and deeply personal. The attention to detail in the set design, the worn-out furniture, the chaos of the spaces, the contrasting emptiness of nature adds a layer of authenticity to the experience. These settings help to paint a picture of a world that mirrors the characters' internal battles, and in doing so, they shape the emotional tone of the entire narrative. The dialogue in *Wetlands* is as raw and unapologetic as its protagonist, Helen. It's not your typical clever, polished script that you might find in more traditional dramas. No, this film thrives on language that's gritty, blunt, and often shockingly honest. The words are sharp and jarring, but they serve as an amplifier for the film's core themes: bodily autonomy, self-destruction, and a fierce, rebellious attitude towards societal expectations. Helen's inner monologue is laced with sarcasm, wit, and an unfiltered perspective on the world around her. She doesn't mince words, and neither does the film. It's this brashness that makes the dialogue so impactful. It's disarming and feels almost confrontational at times, as if Helen is challenging the audience, daring them to judge her while simultaneously daring them to understand her. Her unapologetic attitude comes across in every exchange, whether it's with her family, doctors, or random strangers. But it's not just about shock value or bluntness. The dialogue is also layered with emotional complexity. Beneath all the crude remarks and snarky comments, there's a deep sense of vulnerability, especially in the moments when Helen opens up about her struggles. The way she articulates her pain, her longing, and her defiance feels deeply personal and, at times, devastating. It's not the typical way someone might express their inner turmoil, but that's exactly the point. Helen's words reflect her worldview, raw, messy, and unrefined. What stands out most is how the script balances moments of humor and deep sadness, often in quick succession. One moment, Helen will deliver a one-liner that's biting and funny, and the next, she's confronting something incredibly painful about herself. This sharp contrast adds a layer of unpredictability to the film, keeping the audience engaged and on their toes. It's like a constant emotional ping-pong game where humor and heartbreak collide. The script also doesn't shy away from uncomfortable topics, and the dialogue is often uncomfortably honest, reflecting the film's overall willingness to push boundaries. For instance, Helen talks openly about her sexuality, her physicality, and her body in ways that might make some viewers cringe, but it's this brutal honesty that makes the dialogue feel so authentic. These conversations are unapologetically messy, much like the characters themselves. It's a dialogue that forces the audience to reckon with uncomfortable truths, both about the characters and society's expectations. And then there are the moments of unexpected profundity. You'll hear a throwaway line that, in another context, might seem trivial, but in the world of *Wetlands*, it carries weight. The script is full of these little gems, lines that are easy to overlook but resonate long after the film ends. Some of these lines feel like they belong to Helen's inner manifesto, a kind of personal rebellion against the norms she's been forced to conform to. The dialogue also excels in how it portrays relationships. Whether it's the strained conversations between Helen and her mother or the awkward, tentative moments with her love interests, the way the script navigates these dynamics feels true to life. There's no sugarcoating here, no idealized relationships. The script shows the messiness of real human connections, the misunderstandings, the silences, the painful truths that can never be fully expressed. In the end, the dialogue of *Wetlands* doesn't just serve the plot, it serves as an extension of the characters themselves. It's bold, unrefined, and full of contradictions, just like Helen. It's these moments of sharp wit, emotional weight, and painful honesty that make the script memorable and elevate the film. The words spoken are more than just dialogue, they're the soul of the film, a reflection of the chaos, vulnerability, and defiance that defines *Wetlands* as a whole. *Wetlands* doesn't just play with genre conventions, it obliterates them. It's a film that refuses to be neatly categorized, defying the usual expectations of what a drama, coming of age, or even a dark comedy should be. From the outset, you can tell this is a film that's unafraid to throw away the rulebook and play by its own, unorthodox set of guidelines. It's not interested in fitting into a neatly defined box. Instead, it's here to shock, confuse, entertain, and challenge. If you're expecting the usual emotional catharsis or a predictable narrative arc, you might be in for a wild ride. The film sets itself apart by blending genres and tones in a way that feels almost disorienting, yet in a way that fits perfectly with the chaotic energy of its protagonist, Helen. At its core, *Wetlands* is a coming-of-age film, but it's one where puberty isn't just about emotional growth and first loves, it's about raw physicality, bodily functions, and a blatant disregard for social norms. While most films of this genre would shy away from bodily humor and the messiness of the human body, *Wetlands* embraces it fully. And it doesn't just include it for shock value, it uses the body as a lens through which we explore deeper questions about identity, relationships, and self-acceptance. There's a brutal honesty in the way Helen talks about her body that subverts the traditional coming-of-age narrative, where characters might learn to accept themselves through more conventional means. Here, Helen's self-acceptance is messy, uncomfortable, and downright in your face, but that's exactly what makes it stand out. And let's talk about humor, because *Wetlands* has it in spades. But don't expect your typical laugh-out-loud moments. The humor here is dark, biting, and laced with sarcasm. It's not a film that's going to make you smile politely or give you feel-good moments. Instead, it's going to make you laugh uncomfortably, question whether you should even be laughing, and leave you feeling slightly guilty about it. The humor serves as a coping mechanism for the characters, especially Helen, who uses sharp wit to deflect her pain, fears, and insecurities. It's a kind of survival tactic in a world that often seems like it's about to swallow her whole. But here's where it gets even more interesting. The film doesn't just throw in humor for the sake of it. The way it balances humor with deeply unsettling moments is almost masterful. One minute, you're cringing at Helen's bold, unapologetic behavior, and the next, you're hit with a moment of vulnerability or emotional complexity that takes you by surprise. *Wetlands* plays with tone in a way that few films dare to, constantly shifting from irreverent humor to moments of deep emotional resonance. It's a tightrope walk between laughing and crying, and the film somehow pulls it off. It's not just about balancing humor and drama either. *Wetlands* brings elements of suspense and tension to the table, though not in the typical thriller sense. Instead, the suspense comes from the unpredictability of Helen's actions and the chaotic emotional rollercoaster she rides throughout the film. You're constantly on edge, wondering what's going to happen next, whether it's a shocking decision she makes or a sudden revelation about her past. It's not your standard plot-driven suspense, but rather an emotional tension that keeps you engaged and constantly second-guessing. When it comes to action, don't expect high-octane sequences or adrenaline-pumping moments. But there is an underlying, almost unrelenting energy in the way Helen approaches life, and in that sense, there's a kind of action in her every move. It's an internal action, as she pushes boundaries, fights against the confines of societal expectations, and challenges the norms placed upon her. It's a quieter, more subtle form of action, but one that's no less impactful. The film's subversion of genre conventions isn't just about defying expectations, it's about making you feel something real and raw. Whether it's disgust, laughter, sympathy, or discomfort, *Wetlands* doesn't want you to walk out of the theater feeling passive. It wants to stir something deep within you, make you think, question, and maybe even feel a little bit uncomfortable with how far it goes. The beauty of the genre execution here is that it's not just a commentary on coming-of-age films or the body genre, it's a complete reimagining of what these genres can be. It takes what we think we know about film conventions, shakes it up, and gives us something that's as unsettling as it is entertaining. It's a ride, to say the least. But by the time the credits roll, you realize that it's not about whether the film sticks to genre norms or not, it's about how unapologetically *Wetlands* tells its story and makes you feel every minute of it. *Wetlands* is not a film that merely skirts around contemporary issues, it dives headfirst into the messy, often uncomfortable waters of modern life, taking on everything from sexual identity to societal taboos. It's a raw, unapologetic exploration of how we view the human body, relationships, and gender in today's world. From the moment the film begins, it doesn't just ask you to sit back and watch, it demands that you engage with its bold take on culture and society. It's like a mirror, holding up our own assumptions, prejudices, and discomforts and forcing us to face them head-on. One of the most striking aspects of *Wetlands* is how it deals with the subject of bodily autonomy and the freedom, or lack thereof, that we experience in relation to our own bodies. Helen's character is the embodiment of someone who refuses to be bound by the rules that society has set for her. From her open discussion of bodily functions to her overt rejection of conventional beauty standards, she challenges everything we're taught to fear or be ashamed of. This isn't just about shock value, it's a deliberate commentary on how we navigate our bodies in a culture that constantly tries to control, shame, or objectify them. The film's depiction of Helen's body as a site of both liberation and rebellion highlights the broader societal tensions between individual freedom and social conformity. And it doesn't stop there. The film also addresses the complexities of relationships, particularly the ones we have with our parents, sexuality, and identity. Through Helen's dysfunctional yet deeply human relationships, *Wetlands* takes a hard look at how we are shaped by family dynamics, societal expectations, and the roles we're forced to play. It doesn't shy away from the messiness of these connections, whether it's the strained bond between Helen and her mother or the awkward, often uncomfortable exploration of her sexuality. These relationships are complicated, imperfect, and flawed, just like real life. And that's where the film's cultural commentary is at its most powerful. It refuses to sugarcoat or idealize the struggles we face in trying to understand ourselves and our place in the world. But let's talk about the film's handling of sensitive topics, because this is where *Wetlands* really makes waves. The film tackles issues like sexual autonomy, self-harm, and the trauma that comes with familial neglect with an unflinching eye. It doesn't offer easy solutions or tidy resolutions, and that's what makes it so impactful. It forces the viewer to reckon with the raw, uncomfortable realities of these issues without offering a comforting narrative bow to tie everything up. It's messy, yes. But that's what makes it feel real. The beauty of the film's social commentary lies in how it explores these complex issues without passing judgment or offering overt political statements. Instead, it gives us the space to process and understand, showing us that there's no one-size-fits-all solution to the human experience. The film also engages with cultural expectations around femininity in a way that's deeply provocative. Helen's rejection of the conventional notion of what it means to be a woman is both rebellious and empowering. She doesn't play by the rules of what a good woman should be, from her crass humor to her unapologetic exploration of her sexuality. But this isn't just about defiance for the sake of it, it's about breaking free from the restrictive boxes that society has set for women, boxes that often involve self-sacrifice, perfection, and silence. In that way, Wetlands becomes a kind of manifesto for anyone who's ever felt trapped by societal expectations, showing us that it's possible to exist outside of those boundaries and embrace our flaws without shame. What's so impressive about the film's cultural commentary is that it doesn't feel heavy-handed or preachy. It doesn't force you to adopt a specific viewpoint, it simply presents its characters, their stories, and their struggles in a way that's deeply human. It makes its statement through the lived experiences of its protagonist, through the choices she makes, the people she interacts with, and the world she inhabits. And while the themes are bold, they're not shoehorned in for effect. The film allows the commentary to emerge organically from the story, creating a seamless blend of narrative and cultural exploration. The way Wetlands addresses these themes doesn't feel like a lecture, it feels like a confrontation. It's the type of film that challenges you to think deeply about the world around you, about how we view ourselves, our bodies, and each other. And that's what makes it so potent as a piece of social and cultural commentary. It's not interested in offering answers or resolutions, it's about making us ask questions, feel discomfort, and perhaps reconsider the way we engage with the world. Wetlands holds a mirror up to contemporary issues and forces us to look at what we see, whether we like it or not. And in doing so, it becomes a conversation starter, an invitation to dig deeper into the complexities of identity, body politics, and social norms. Wetlands is a film that doesn't just passively entertain, it actively engages its audience on a visceral level, eliciting reactions that range from shock to laughter to discomfort. It's the kind of film that you don't just watch, you feel it, deep in your bones. The moments that resonate most are often the ones that defy expectations and push boundaries, whether it's Helen's unapologetic exploration of her own body or the film's brutal, raw honesty in its depiction of human relationships. It's a film that doesn't shy away from making the viewer squirm in their seat, but it does so in a way that's compelling, not gratuitous. One of the most memorable aspects of Wetlands is how it blends humor with pathos, often in the same scene. Just when you think you've caught your breath from one shocking moment, the film will hit you with a laugh-out-loud line or a scene that's so absurd it catches you off guard. Helen's frank, unfiltered perspective on the world creates a disarming humor that provides both a release and a contrast to the darker themes at play. It's like riding a roller coaster, you're taken from one extreme to the next, and while you may be left a little dizzy, there's something exhilarating about the ride. The juxtaposition of humor and trauma makes the film feel more grounded in reality, and it creates emotional whiplash that invites the audience to think harder about why they're laughing at something that's also deeply tragic. But it's not all just a chaotic blend of shock and humor. There are moments in Wetlands that are quietly profound, inviting the viewer to reflect on what they've just witnessed. These moments often come when the film slows down and gives you a glimpse of the vulnerability that lies beneath Helen's tough exterior. Her complex relationships with her family and her body force the audience to confront uncomfortable truths about human nature. It's not a feel-good experience, but it's undeniably compelling. The way the film forces you to grapple with difficult, often taboo subjects creates a tension that lingers long after the credits roll. The film also invites deep reflection, particularly about issues like bodily autonomy, the complexities of identity, and the messy realities of relationships. These are themes that will stay with you long after the film ends, making it the type of movie that demands repeat viewings. You'll find yourself noticing new details with each watch, whether it's the subtle way Helen's trauma is reflected in her actions or the layered performances that become more meaningful upon closer inspection. Wetlands doesn't provide easy answers, and that's exactly what makes it so engaging. It's the type of film that sparks conversation, debates, and maybe even some discomfort. But isn't that the hallmark of great art? As for emotional resonance, Wetlands can catch you off guard. It's easy to get caught up in the crassness and humor of Helen's character, but when the film delves into the pain that drives her actions, whether it's her fractured family life, her internal struggle with identity, or her sense of isolation, it's hard not to feel something. There's a rawness in the way the film exposes its characters' flaws and fears, and it's that rawness that taps into universal human experiences. Whether it's the pain of being misunderstood or the longing for connection, Wetlands taps into deep emotional currents that many viewers can relate to, even if the specifics of Helen's life are far removed from their own. And let's not forget the shock factor. There's a boldness to *Wetlands* that is downright jarring at times. The film is not afraid to push boundaries, and it thrives on shocking the audience, but it's never done in a way that feels like it's just for shock's sake. Every shocking moment serves a purpose, contributing to the larger emotional and thematic goals of the film. Whether it's a cringeworthy scene involving bodily fluids or a brutally honest confrontation between characters, *Wetlands* knows how to take you to the edge and make you feel uncomfortable, and that discomfort is a big part of why the film works so well. In the end, *Wetlands* leaves you with more than just a reaction, it leaves you with a lingering sense of contemplation. The film's combination of humor, shock, and emotional depth makes it one that's impossible to forget. You'll find yourself thinking about it, discussing it with others, and even revisiting it to uncover new layers. It's a movie that demands to be talked about, whether you love it or hate it, and that's what makes it such a powerful experience. When comparing *Wetlands* to other films within its genre, or even within the broader spectrum of films that tackle taboo topics or explore the messier sides of human nature, it definitely stands out. It isn't afraid to dive headfirst into the kind of raw, unfiltered content that most films shy away from. In fact, it almost feels like a breath of fresh air in a genre that can often feel too sanitized or neatly packaged. It isn't afraid to be uncomfortable, and that discomfort is part of what sets it apart. While other films might edge around the topic of bodily functions, family dysfunction, or self-discovery, *Wetlands* throws all of that into the spotlight, not to shock, but to explore. If you look at films that are often compared to *Wetlands*, like *The Dreamers*, 2003, or *Y Tu Mamartambian*, 2001, it becomes clear that while they share themes of sexual exploration, self-discovery, and the breaking of societal taboos, *Wetlands* is more abrasive in its approach. Where *The Dreamers* and *Y Tu Mamartambian* are more about youthful rebellion and sexual awakening in a coming-of-age context, *Wetlands* takes a much more cynical, even grotesque approach. The sexual exploration here isn't just about the thrill of breaking boundaries, it's about how those boundaries are tangled up in trauma, dysfunction, and a search for self-worth. Helen's character is far from a naive ingenue, she's someone who's been marked by her past, and her way of coping with that is both fascinating and disturbing to watch. Looking at director David Wnenc's previous works, like *Combat Girls*, 2011, *Wetlands* continues his exploration of uncomfortable and socially challenging themes, but it does so with a particular, almost rebellious sensibility. Where *Combat Girls* focused on radicalism and the violent undercurrents of modern politics, *Wetlands* uses the body as its battleground, examining how the physical and emotional realms collide in disturbing and humorous ways. Wnenc's ability to walk the fine line between grotesque humor and emotional authenticity is once again on display here, but in a more personal, intimate way. It's as if he's not just trying to shock us with the material, but to make us really feel it, to immerse us in the discomfort of the human experience. Comparing it to other films within the body genre, films that deal with body horror or the bizarre relationship we have with our own physicality, *Wetlands* may feel like it's operating on a completely different wavelength than something like *The Fly*, 1986, or *Antichrist*, 2009. Where those films use the body as a grotesque vessel of transformation or punishment, *Wetlands* makes the body a playground, a site of both disgust and fascination, but also a form of defiance and rebellion. It's about reclaiming agency over one's own body, even when it feels like it's the one thing that can't be controlled. In terms of genre, *Wetlands* is difficult to categorize, and that's part of its charm. It doesn't neatly fit into any one box. It has elements of dark comedy, body horror, coming-of-age drama, and even a bit of social commentary. But while it borrows from all these genres, it never feels like it's following a formula. In fact, it feels like it's doing the opposite, taking those conventions and twisting them into something uniquely its own. The film's uncomfortable humor, raw sexuality, and exploration of identity all set it apart from anything else you'll see in this genre. It's a film that doesn't want to make you comfortable, and that's exactly why it leaves such a lasting impact. If we were to look at Wetlands in the context of Wendt's broader filmography, it's clear that he has a penchant for challenging his audience's perceptions of societal norms and expectations. He's not interested in giving you a feel-good experience or a neat narrative. Instead, he pushes boundaries, both in terms of content and in the way the audience processes what they're seeing. Where most films give you something to hold on to, Wetlands gives you something to wrestle with, something that keeps you questioning long after the credits roll. Ultimately, Wetlands offers something fresh by subverting typical tropes and diving deeper into uncharted, uncomfortable territory. While it draws from elements of bodycentric horror, coming-of-age narratives, and dark humor, it never takes the easy route. It's a film that both challenges and invites you to experience the full range of human emotion and physicality, all while maintaining a unique and rebellious voice. Wetlands is a treasure trove of symbolism and hidden visual cues, each element carefully crafted to enrich the film's larger narrative and themes. From the very first scene, where Helen submerges herself in a bathtub, the film introduces us to a world where the line between disgust and liberation is razor-thin. This scene isn't just about her bathing habits, it's a metaphor for how she views the world, a place to dive into head first, even if it's dirty, chaotic, and uncomfortable. The water becomes a recurring motif throughout the film, symbolizing purification, but also, paradoxically, corruption. It's as if Helen is constantly submerged in her own trauma, yet also trying to cleanse herself in the process. The act of bathing itself becomes a ritual of self-discovery, and the water represents both the deep emotional turmoil she's trying to wash away, and the overwhelming desire to be reborn. The symbolic use of the body is another rich layer in Wetlands. Helen's obsession with bodily functions, urination, menstruation, even the discomfort of wounds, goes beyond simple shock value. It's a way for the film to explore how the body can be both a site of freedom and a prison. There's an interesting tension here. Helen's body is often a means of asserting control, whether through her flaunting of it or her defiant disregard for hygiene and social norms. Yet, the same body that she uses to rebel is also one that she cannot fully escape. It's a prison she cannot leave, no matter how hard she tries to reject societal expectations of cleanliness or beauty. In this sense, her body becomes a symbol of both defiance and captivity, a paradox that plays out in the film's visual and thematic landscape. The film's use of color also serves as a subtle yet powerful metaphor. While Wetlands is often bathed in muted, earthy tones, dirt, flesh, water, all in various shades of decay, there are occasional bursts of color that stand out. These vivid moments represent Helen's fleeting attempts to break free, her brief moments of joy, or even her fantasies of a world outside the constraints of her body. These splashes of color feel like brief sparks of life amid the otherwise suffocating tones of her reality, and they remind the audience that while Helen may feel trapped, there's still an underlying pulse of possibility and defiance beneath the surface. The recurring theme of the hospital also operates on multiple symbolic levels. It's not just a physical location, it's a representation of the institution that tries to control, fix, or contain Helen. The sterile environment of the hospital contrasts sharply with the chaos of her internal world, and the tension between these two realms speaks to the larger themes of societal control versus personal freedom. The hospital, in a way, represents everything that Helen rebels against: the clean, the sanitized, the acceptable. Her resistance to it is her refusal to conform to the conventional expectations of health, beauty, and orderliness. In this sense, the hospital is not just a place for healing, it's a symbol of the oppressive forces that Helen is constantly battling, both within and outside of herself. Another powerful visual metaphor is the depiction of Helen's relationships with her parents, which act as a reflection of the film's exploration of intimacy and personal boundaries. The recurring imagery of food, particularly in scenes where Helen and her mother clash over what's appropriate, becomes a metaphor for nourishment, both emotional and physical. The way Helen engages with food, sometimes with abandon, sometimes with disgust, reflects her broader approach to life. She wants to consume, to experience everything, but she also struggles with the guilt and discomfort that often accompanies that consumption. This duality between hunger and satisfaction, between nourishment and rejection, mirrors her ongoing internal battle with her identity and her relationship to the world around her. Finally, there's the recurring presence of mirrors in *Wetlands star. The mirror, as a symbol, is tied to self-reflection, but it's never a clear, accurate reflection of who Helen is. Instead, it distorts her image, much like the way she distorts her own self-perception. Helen's obsession with her own body and its flaws suggests a deeper struggle with how she sees herself in the world, a world that constantly tells her she doesn't fit. The mirror, in this sense, becomes a symbol of her fractured identity, constantly shifting between self-empowerment and self-loathing. Through these symbols and metaphors, *Wetlands* builds a layered, complex narrative that explores the messy, complicated nature of self-identity. It invites the audience to examine their own perceptions of the body, of normalcy, and of control. The hidden visual cues aren't just there for shock, they're deliberate, carefully chosen moments that give us a glimpse into Helen's soul, and in turn, a reflection of our own. The film doesn't just ask us to observe the chaos of Helen's life, it demands that we confront the chaos within ourselves. *Wetlands* may not belong to a franchise or a historical narrative, but it stands as an isolated, unique exploration within the context of contemporary cinema. Its role in the broader landscape of films tackling taboo subjects, body autonomy, and self-identity is crucial, yet it does not follow in the footsteps of a larger franchise or historical chain. Instead, the film carves out its own space, becoming part of a genre that revels in the subversive and unapologetically raw exploration of the human body and psyche. While many films are confined by historical accuracy or the constraints of franchise expectations, *Wetlands* uses its independence to boldly challenge conventional storytelling. In terms of historical context, the film taps into a period in modern cinema where boundary-pushing stories are finding an audience that is increasingly interested in more complex, unflinching depictions of real-life experiences. The film's release in 2013 occurred at a time when audiences were ready to embrace films that dared to explore difficult and uncomfortable themes, like bodily autonomy, sexuality, and the messy, often contradictory nature of human experience. *Wetlands* fits neatly within a broader movement of films and literature that sought to question the conventions of beauty, health, and societal norms. It's a part of a wave that includes works that challenge the social narrative of what it means to be normal, what it means to be feminine, and what it means to be a human body that is not idealized, but real. The film's immersion in a raw, unpolished reality places it firmly within the modern cinematic exploration of the human condition, as seen in works like *The Diary of a Teenage Girl*, or *Nymphomaniac star. These films, much like *Wetlands*, expose the vulnerability, defiance, and messiness that come with living in a body that is constantly judged by societal standards. *Wetlands* doesn't just exist within the broader landscape of modern cinema, it contributes to the ongoing conversation about how we view our own bodies, health, and identities. It's as though the film takes a stand in a very specific moment of cinema history, where it's clear that the traditional ideals of beauty and conformity have been questioned and are being redefined. Although it's not a historical film in the traditional sense, *Wetlands* also makes a cultural statement. It is immersed in contemporary issues, such as the unrealistic portrayal of women in media, societal pressure on female hygiene, and the often silenced conversation around body autonomy. These topics, though modern, tap into an underlying historical context where women's bodies have been historically policed, controlled, and scrutinized. It's not just a present-day examination, it reflects the ongoing legacy of how society has viewed the female body over time and challenges those historical narratives in a way that feels revolutionary for today's audience. Unlike films based on real events or those tied to historical figures, *Wetlands* instead offers a snapshot of contemporary life, where identity, autonomy, and the pursuit of personal liberation are at the forefront. It does not attempt to recreate historical events or portray specific periods, but draws its significance from the ongoing evolution of cultural attitudes toward women and their bodies. In this sense, it becomes a piece of cinematic history in its own right, contributing to the broader narrative of cinema's increasing interest in pushing boundaries and challenging expectations. Its historical context is more about where it fits in the evolution of modern storytelling, especially films that break free from traditional genre or narrative expectations. Wetlands belongs to the new wave of films that aren't just part of a cultural moment, it's creating its own moment, one where uncomfortable, often controversial topics are dealt with head-on. And while it may not reference specific historical events or fall into a series, it is a reflection of the cultural landscape of its time, a piece of art that speaks to the present and will continue to resonate as future generations revisit the complex, messy narrative it unfolds. It's a perfect snapshot of where we are culturally, emotionally, and personally in our relationship with the human body and identity. If part of a series, how does it contribute to the overarching narrative? If a historical film, how accurate and immersive is its portrayal of real events or time periods? Explain to audience in an engaging way. It should be fun and entertaining. Do not follow the conventional review structure, do not include conclusions, etc. Discuss in great detail. Don't include emojis, references, links, etc. Keep the text plain, don't divide with lines between paragraphs. Wetlands had a relatively modest budget, with reports placing it in the lower range of independent films. This is important because the film's production quality, while not lavish or high budget by Hollywood standards, still manages to deliver a striking, visceral impact. The camera work, the intimate and often raw visual style, and the frankness of the subject matter all contribute to a feeling of immediacy that works perfectly with its budget. The decision to use relatively simple yet effective cinematography elevates the film's quality without needing flashy, expensive effects or elaborate sets. It's not a film that demands the resources of a big blockbuster, yet it successfully portrays its themes through its straightforward but effective approach. As for its box office performance, Wetlands didn't exactly rake in massive profits. Its initial release was primarily in select markets, targeting niche audiences drawn to films with unflinching depictions of real human experiences. The financial success was never going to come from mainstream audiences, who may find the film's subject matter uncomfortable or even off-putting. Instead, it made its mark in indie cinema circles, where its unapologetic approach to sexuality, bodily autonomy, and taboo subjects created a certain cultural buzz. This buzz led to its modest success in arthouse theaters and film festivals. It didn't blow up in the way a blockbuster might, but it garnered attention within the right circles and received a cult following, which is often the hallmark of indie films with niche appeal. Marketing, as it is with most films of this genre, played a huge role in influencing its reach and reception. Its provocative nature was both its marketing strength and its challenge. The film leaned into its shock value, with promotional material emphasizing the boundary-pushing aspects of the story, though it's safe to say, the ads didn't fully prepare audiences for the full experience. This kind of marketing draws in viewers who are curious about pushing limits and experiencing something different, but it can also create a divide, turning off more mainstream viewers who might not want to deal with such explicit content. Audience reception, on the other hand, was divided but fervent. The film found an audience that appreciated its boldness, and in some ways, Wetlands became a kind of talking point for those who enjoyed films that didn't shy away from uncomfortable truths about the human condition. Critics, too, had mixed reactions, with some praising its boldness and others struggling to connect with its rawness. The film didn't have mass commercial appeal, but it certainly carved out a space in the niche of films that deal with taboo subjects, and it resonated with a particular segment of moviegoers looking for something different. The box office numbers may not have been overwhelming, but Wetlands didn't need to be a blockbuster to be considered a success in its own right. It's a film that succeeded in making a statement, in attracting the audience it intended to, and in starting conversations around its themes. The modest box office return was a reflection of the type of film it was, an indie exploration of uncomfortably honest themes rather than a crowd pleaser aimed at mass-market success. That's a win in its own way for a film like this, where cultural impact often outweighs box office earnings. The financial success may have been limited, but the film's influence within the indie scene and its lasting cultural resonance make it clear that its value goes beyond ticket sales. If you're looking to dive into the unapologetically bold world of Wetlands, your best bet is to start with streaming platforms. These days, streaming services are the easiest way to get your hands on niche indie films like this one. While it might not be available on every platform, it has made its way to a few of the bigger streaming giants, where its provocative themes can reach the kind of audience willing to appreciate the rawness of its story. You'll want to check out platforms like Amazon Prime Video, where it has been available for rental or purchase, depending on your location. If you've got a subscription to a service like Netflix, there's a chance you'll find it there too, as it often rotates films in and out of its catalogue. Now, if you're the type who loves the theatrical experience and doesn't mind a bit of discomfort, and let's face it, Wetlands can be downright uncomfortable at times, keep an eye out for independent or art house cinemas. These theaters often showcase films that fly under the radar in mainstream venues, and Wetlands is the kind of film that thrives in that environment. The intimate setting of a small theater allows you to really sink into the discomfort and brilliance of the story. You can get lost in the rawness of it all, and the dark corners of those little indie theaters can help you better absorb the film's atmosphere. However, let's be real, there's no denying that Wetlands can be an emotional rollercoaster and sometimes requires more than just a casual watch. Watching this kind of film in the comfort of your own home, where you can pause, reflect, and even take a breather when things get a little too intense, might be the best way to experience it for the fullest impact. You'll want to pay close attention to the subtleties of the characters, the visuals, and the intimate moments that are easy to overlook if you're distracted by other people in a theater. Streaming from the comfort of your own home allows you to process it all in a way that feels more personal, especially if you're the type to pause and let the meaning of a scene sink in. For those who want the purest form of experiencing Wetlands consider digital rentals. This gives you the flexibility to watch it on your own time, with the ability to rewind key moments or rewatch scenes to pick up on details you might have missed the first time around. After all, this isn't a film you're going to forget easily, but it does require a deeper dive to fully grasp all of its intricacies. Ultimately, how you watch Wetlands depends on your mood and what kind of experience you want. Whether you're diving into it from the couch or catching a screening in an indie theater, the film's rawness and emotional depth will find a way to punch through the screen. It's a film that demands attention, and whichever way you choose to experience it, be prepared to confront what's uncomfortable and come out the other side thinking about it long after the credits roll. From the start, Wetlands disorients you, a raw, fragmented narrative that takes you in multiple directions, often leaving you unsure of where the film is going next. But that's precisely what makes it fascinating. The story of Helen Memel, a teenager trapped in the hospital after a bizarre accident, is both absurd and deeply personal. It's a perfect narrative structure to mirror her complicated psyche. The film keeps us on our toes by playing with time, memory, and perspective. The non-linear storytelling isn't a gimmick, it's a reflection of the messy and unpredictable nature of Helen's world. The themes of bodily autonomy, self-acceptance, and liberation clash against society's judgmental eyes. The film doesn't just talk about taboo subjects like sexuality, hygiene, and self-exploration, it challenges viewers to examine how those very things are shaped by cultural attitudes. There are moments where Helen is at her most vulnerable, but even then, the film doesn't shy away from showing how she manipulates her circumstances. The narrative keeps us guessing, leaving us questioning whether Helen's freedom is genuine or a defense mechanism to protect herself from her own demons. Character development. Helen's character arc is complicated and far from linear, much like the film's structure. At first, she seems reckless, crass, and entirely unbothered by societal expectations. But as the narrative unfolds, we see the cracks beneath her self-assured exterior. The more we learn about her past, the clearer it becomes that Helen is wrestling with deeply rooted feelings of inadequacy and rejection. She's not simply rebellious for the sake of it, she's fighting to create a space where she can exist without being judged. The development of Helen's character is intricately woven into the film's narrative fabric. Her relationships, particularly with her mother and father, serve as windows into her vulnerability. Her desire for connection and love clashes with her need for independence. These contradictions make Helen an incredibly complex protagonist. She doesn't neatly fit into any box, which makes her journey so much more compelling. Wetlands presents a character who is not always likable but impossible to ignore. Helen's development isn't about a typical happy ending, but rather a deep confrontation with herself and the world she inhabits. Performances. Carla Juri, who plays Helen, delivers a powerhouse performance. She completely immerses herself in the role, fearlessly embracing the messiness of her character. From Helen's raw, vulnerable moments to her moments of crass humor and defiance, Juri's performance is dynamic and fearless. She makes Helen come alive in a way that feels painfully real. The film doesn't ask for sympathy, it asks for understanding, and Juri's portrayal demands just that. The supporting cast, though not as central, is equally important in grounding the emotional stakes of the film. While Helen's father and mother play more subtle roles, their influence on her development is undeniable. These characters serve as anchors in Helen's tumultuous world. The emotional depth they bring elevates the narrative, providing a well-rounded counterpoint to the chaotic, rebellious energy Helen brings. Direction. The director, David Wnet, embraces the raw, uncompromising nature of Wetlands and crafts a story that's as difficult to categorize as it is to forget. His direction doesn't rely on conventional storytelling techniques. Instead, he uses visual chaos, moments of discomfort, and sharp contrasts to echo Helen's inner turmoil. He guides the audience through the unpredictable narrative with a steady hand, knowing exactly when to challenge the viewer and when to pull back. The film's unconventional pacing reflects its themes of personal upheaval and societal challenge, with Wnet finding the balance between humor, discomfort, and drama. His approach to the subject matter is bold and unapologetic, which enhances the film's impact. Cinematography. The cinematography in Wetlands is both arresting and uncomfortable, which perfectly complements the film's overall tone. The camera often lingers on uncomfortable or shocking moments, creating a sense of discomfort that forces the audience to confront what's on screen. At times, the visuals are grotesque and raw, much like Helen herself. But there's beauty in these moments too. The camera work, at times, focuses on the small, intimate details of life, the nuances of the human body, the way light shifts across a hospital room, or the look of quiet desperation in Helen's eyes. This delicate balance between the grotesque and the beautiful gives Wetlands a visual texture that feels authentic to its narrative. Soundtrack and score. The soundtrack in Wetlands is subtle but effective. There are moments where music swells, enhancing the emotional beats of the story, but often the score is understated, leaving space for the rawness of the narrative to take center stage. The quiet moments, where silence reigns, are just as impactful as the moments where music plays. The use of silence, in particular, is expertly employed to let the tension hang in the air, forcing the audience to lean in and feel the weight of Helen's emotions. The soundtrack complements the film without overshadowing it, creating an immersive auditory experience that enhances the film's emotional resonance. Themes and messages. The film explores a multitude of themes, all rooted in the tension between individual freedom and societal constraints. It is a meditation on self-image, bodily autonomy, and the ways in which society dictates what is considered acceptable or normal. The film doesn't offer simple answers but rather invites the audience to reflect on their own perceptions of body image, sexuality, and the complex nature of relationships. Wetlands is a film that refuses to conform, much like its protagonist, offering an exploration of how far people are willing to go to challenge their own identities and break free from societal expectations. Wetlands, 2013, based on the novel by Charlotte Roche, is a boldly unconventional film that dares to tackle taboo subjects in an unflinching, raw manner. The story centers on Helen Memel, a teenager recovering from an unexpected and grotesque accident that leaves her hospitalized. As the film progresses, it becomes clear that this injury is not the sole thing that defines Helen. She is someone who exists in a world of extremes, of challenges to bodily autonomy, sexuality, and social norms. The film follows her journey as she confronts the complexities of her relationships with her family, her body, and herself. The film doesn't simply rely on shock value to keep the audience engaged. Instead, it weaves a narrative that's deeply personal and incredibly complex. It's a psychological exploration that balances moments of dark humor with uncomfortable truths, making it a film that challenges the norms of how we engage with our own bodies and how we perceive the bodies of others. Helen is unafraid to express her physicality, her sexuality, and her messy desires in a way that is both liberating and deeply unsettling. But what makes her compelling is not just her audacity but her vulnerability, her deep yearning for connection, and her struggle to make sense of her place in a world that often rejects her. The film's tone is heavily defined by its unrestrained nature. It doesn't just explore Helen's outward eccentricities, it takes us deep into her psyche, exploring how she processes and expresses her inner world. It's a film that asks us to confront the boundaries between self-love, self-doubt, and the alienation that often comes with being different. Through Helen, we see a young woman desperately trying to carve out a space for herself in a world that is quick to judge her for not fitting in, especially as she takes control over her bodily autonomy in defiance of traditional expectations. Summary. In Wetlands, we meet Helen Memel, played by Carla Juri, a headstrong, rebellious teenager who ends up in the hospital after a bizarre personal accident. This leads to a chain of events that will shape her journey of personal discovery, involving a series of outrageous acts, dark humor, and deep self-exploration. The plot offers a mix of shocking, uncomfortable, and sometimes deeply vulnerable moments as Helen navigates her relationships with her parents and her own self-image. The film doesn't sugarcoat anything, it's a brash exploration of identity, sexuality, and bodily functions that defy social taboos. But beneath the shock value, Wetlands is ultimately a deeply human film, one that brings into focus the complex relationship people have with their own bodies, desires, and imperfections. It's about rejecting society's standards in favor of raw, unfiltered self-expression. And despite its sometimes grotesque surface, it's also a film that is deeply tender in its portrayal of a young woman's attempts to understand herself and her place in a world that is often unkind and judgmental. The film doesn't ask for forgiveness or sympathy. Instead, it simply presents Helen's world in all its messy, chaotic glory and asks the audience to reflect on their own perceptions of freedom, sexuality, and societal norms. Whether you find it shocking or liberating, Wetlands offers an uncompromising view of a woman who refuses to be anyone but herself, even in the face of discomfort and societal rejection. Final thoughts on Wetlands, 2013. If there's one thing Wetlands does brilliantly, it's that it does not hold back. From the very beginning, it challenges you to rethink the boundaries of decency and propriety, questioning what is acceptable when it comes to exploring one's body and identity. The movie is an audacious, unapologetic exploration of self-identity, autonomy, and human relationships in all their awkward, painful, and sometimes beautiful forms. The unorthodox structure and bold approach can alienate some viewers who are more comfortable with conventional storytelling, but for those willing to dive into its chaotic yet meaningful journey, Wetlands offers a rare, unfiltered look into the complexities of being human. It's messy, sometimes grotesque, but also a profound exploration of vulnerability, self-love, and self-destruction. It dares to ask difficult questions about how we perceive our bodies, our desires, and our deepest fears, ultimately leaving us to wonder, what happens when we stop apologizing for our most raw and authentic selves? While the film may not be everyone's cup of tea, it's certainly a work of art that shouldn't be ignored. It's a reflection of a society that pushes against the taboos and norms it has created while simultaneously craving an honest exploration of who we are and who we are allowed to be. In a world where conformity often reigns, Wetlands offers a defiant, messy celebration of individuality. For those ready to embrace its rawness, Wetlands provides a cinematic experience that is as disturbing as it is beautiful, offering a compelling reminder that we are all a bit more complex, messy, and beautiful than we often let ourselves admit.